Muhyiddin emergency declaration is unconstitutional, constitutional coup de tat. On 23 October 2020, Malaysian was shocked to hear that emergency could be declared as Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin had an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong at Istana Abdulaziz and Kuantan, Pahang on Friday, October 23, afternoon. This audience is said to communicate the cabinet decision to propose the declaration of an emergency following its special meeting that ended at around 1 p.m. Friday. A state of emergency is expected to be announced in a move to step up the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic that has spiked sharply over the past 1 week, as well as to put a stop to political squabbles. The question: is it constitutional for Prime Minister after the Cabinet special meeting to advise the Yang di-Pertuan Agong for the declaration of emergency? Here, I'll expose that the constitutional step that Prime Minister Muhyiddin are taken is wrong and unconstitutional. First, let us look at Article 150 of the Federal Constitution on the proclamation of emergency. Article 150 Clause 1 expressed that if the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is satisfied that a grave emergency exists whereby the security, or the economic life, or public order in the Federation or any part thereof is threatened, he may issue a proclamation of emergency making therein a declaration to that effect. Under Article 150 Clause 1, Yang di-Pertuan Agong has the constitutional power to make a proclamation of emergency. However, this constitutional power of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong must be read together with Article 40 Clause 1 and Clause 1A of the Federal Constitution. Article 40 Clause 1 expressed that in the exercise of his functions under this constitution or federal law the Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall act in accordance with the advice of the Cabinet or of a minister acting under the general authority of the Cabinet, except as otherwise provided by this constitution, but shall be entitled, at his request, to any information concerning the government of the Federation which is available to the Cabinet. Article 40 Clause 1, Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall act in accordance with the advice of the Cabinet or of a minister acting under the general authority of the Cabinet. This means, Yang di-Pertuan Agong can only make a proclamation of emergency with the advice of the Cabinet or of a minister acting under the general authority of the Cabinet. Article 40 Clause 1A strengthened the case, which expressed that in the exercise of his functions under this constitution or federal law, where the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is to act in accordance with advice, on advice, or after considering advice, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall accept and act in accordance with such advice. Therefore, if the Cabinet or of a minister acting under the general authority of the Cabinet, for example Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin advised the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to make a proclamation of emergency, Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall accept the advice and there will be a proclamation of emergency in Malaysia. So far, based on Article 150 Clause 1 read together with Article 40 Clause 1 and Clause 1A, the Cabinet and Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin are in the right constitutional route. However, there is one other article which entrapped the constitutional coup d'etat that Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin want to flex here. Let us read Article 43 Clause 3 of the Federal Constitution. Article 43 Clause 3 expressed that the Cabinet shall be collectively responsible to Parliament. Meaning to say, the Cabinet is held responsible to Parliament, which under Article 44 consists of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and two houses of Parliament, namely the Senate and the House of Representatives. This means, after the special Cabinet meeting, since Cabinet is responsible to the Parliament, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin must lay down a motion for the proclamation of emergency in the House of Representatives. Therefore, it is unconstitutional for the Cabinet and Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin to advise the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to make a proclamation of emergency. Under Article 43 Clause 3, the motion must be laid in the House of Representatives before it can be moved forward to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Therefore, we all must understand that to make a proclamation of emergency, several articles must be read together, which are Article 150 Clause 1, Article 40 Clause 1 and Clause 1A, Article 43 Clause 3 and Article 44 of the Federal Constitution. So, we just find out that the entire cabinet don't know how to make the right constitutional procedure to make a proclamation of emergency.